his one most memorable memory about Tata Group. He's tracked this group very, very closely. And Mr. Damani, this is one corporate group which is old but young. It's a corporate group which is investing in businesses of future, yet ensuring that the businesses of the past, they stay alive.
Yeah, Nikunj, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a great pleasure to be on it. Of course, I've invested in a lot of Tata Group companies over my 30-year career. As you know, the walk from Dallas Street to Bombay House is a very short walk. So I watched this group with fascination. Clearly, one of the best conglomerates out of India. Unfortunately, I've not had the pleasure of interacting on a personal level with Ratan Tata myself. But I'll tell you an interesting story, Nikunj. When I did my MBA and I came back to India to start my business, I was addicted to reading the Wall Street Journal even in the early 90s. So finally, I found a vendor who would supply that to me. And one day, idly, I asked him, I said, how many copies of the Wall Street Journal do you supply? And he said, well, we supply 3 copies. I was really struck at the small number and asked him, who did he supply to? And he said, well, he supplied it to the SBI chairman, to Bombay House, Ratan Tata, and then to me. So I knew I was in good company reading what Ratan Tata read. So that was my interaction with him in a manner of speaking. But of course, we've been very fortunate to participate in so many of the great stocks that he has unleashed. As they say that well done is better than well said. And Ratan could do both things very well. Not only articulate a vision, but also execute for shareholders and then give back to philanthropy. As I often called him, he's the conscious keeper for India Incorporated.
Mr. Damani, now the Tata Group is stable. They are known for taking long-term bets. But do you think somewhere Mr. Ratan Tata also had this ability to understand risk? The fact that he acquired companies, took Tata Global, after 1991, India was opening and Tata Group comes out and they really go all out with their global ambitions, whether it is Chorus or whether it is JLR. So his ability to take risk was also quite extraordinary.
Absolutely. I think we celebrate his philanthropy and rightly so. But his ability to see ahead and put money on the table, it starts with the gene of the Tatas. When they set up Tata Iron and Steel or when they set up the Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay, it was considered pretty stupid and pretty risky move to do that. And yet over time, the wisdom of that move has shown through. So I think when they did the acquisitions, there was a lot of skepticism, particularly as you recall about JLR acquisition. But today it's a cash cow in their business empire. So I think we need to celebrate both parts of his life. One part is, of course, the great philanthropic institutions and the amount they have touched our lives. But the second is, and the underappreciated fact is that this bull market has been led by, among other shares, also by the Tata Group companies. Trent has gone from a few 100,000 crores company to a 3.5 lakh crore market cap company. It's probably one of the stocks leading this bull market ahead. The other group companies, Titan, Tata Motors, Taj Hotels, have done equally well. So I think one of the underappreciated facts is the amount of wealth that is created for investors.
We were talking about as to how ahead of the curve he's been, when it comes to some of the private investments that he made in some of the startups as well. And, these are all household names pretty much. Everything from an urban company to a Snapdeal, CureFit, Lenskart, Car Dekho, even Ola Electric, which, recently finally listed. So, his personal investments as well really speak for the kind of visionary that he was. And, the thought process was decades ahead.
Burdened by, having to look after the huge conglomerates, businesses that he ran. So he invested in these startups and that did very well. But Aisha, if I may, I'd like to point out that not only in good times, but there were a couple of companies that went through a lot of crisis when he was on the helm. The most famous example is Tata Finance, when some top-level management diverted money and put it in Dallas Street and lost money. And instead of taking the legal liability, which was his, he took the moral responsibility and made sure that all the stakeholders, all the deposit holders were paid back in full. So that was not the legal requirement. In fact, in the recent book that I read, that they were so concerned that people got the money when they needed it. They even kept helicopters on hire to transfer money to some outstation places if people requested money. But the Tata brand name itself was such that there's very few redemptions and people believed the Tatas when they said that everything would be taken care of. So I think Ratan Tata was, in many ways, to copy the name of a movie title, a man for all seasons. It's been a great honor that to have watched him and to observe him over the last 30 years.
Stocks you own, Ramesh, and how many you plan to own, and how many you planning to buy?
Could you repeat the question?
No, how many Tata stocks, as a shareholder, you had a very happy experience with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think my first experience was in a company that they're no longer associated with, Tata Honeywell. We bought that for a few hundred rupees. Today it's more like 45, 50,000 rupees. It's been a great, extraordinary thing. A company called CMC, which Tata TCS acquired, made me my first 200 bagger in the stock market. Currently, I own, of course, a lot of the retail stocks, the Tata Motors franchise. So it's been a very rewarding pick for shareholders. And like I mentioned earlier, Nikunj, that in 4 or 5 years ago, as a friend Rakesh Jujunwala made a big bet on the Tata Group. If you look back at the amount of outperformance that the group has given, it's extraordinary. And with much lesser volatility, much lesser raising of capital, much more productivity of resources. So we've all been blessed to being able to invest in that corporate space that they own, because it often jokingly called in the last week the widower's stock, because widows also own it and they never sell it. And I think there's good wisdom to it, there's good reason to it, because they always deliver for shareholders. Sometimes it takes a few more years, but ultimately they figure out the business model and deliver. So we are very blessed to have that group in our midst.
And those on your screens, you can see the live visuals coming in from the NCPA grounds, where the public can then pay tribute to Ratan Tata's mortal remains, and they are getting set now for the state funeral. It's actually from his residence. I stand corrected at that. That's Bakhtawar in South Mumbai.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits. And then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.